Hi everyone, this is Cathleen de Ontiveros, and this is going to be a 101 intro into the supplies that we're going to be using for the painting tutorials. If you are a seasoned artist, you may not need to watch this video. You can skip right through it to the next video. If you are new though, it is nice to know what you may need to look for when you go to the art store because it can be rather overwhelming. And I ended up buying a lot of supplies that I didn't need when I first started out. Okay, we're gonna jump right in with my favorite supply, and that is the artist sponge. I bought this bag at Michael's. It was about $3.50 after the coupon. I like to have the ones that have the really open texture with the larger size bubbles because it adds this really unique look that we get to the nebulas that we paint in my tutorials. I've had this sponge for 6 years. I'm really careful to wash it out with soap and water after I use it. I never let the paint dry in it. If I can't get to a sink right away, I will take a container full of water, immerse it, make sure it's completely covered, and then it will be fine until I can be able to wash it with soap and water properly. So we want to take really good care of our sponges and our paint brushes by washing them or immersing them in water right away. Never let the paint dry on them. Now moving on to paint. Some of the brands that we're going to use is Liquitex, Artist Loft, and Master's Touch. I'm not going to be using this color in the upcoming tutorial, but I wanted you to be aware of the brand and what the tube looks like. This is a Hobby Lobby brand, and it's actually a very good paint. I highly recommend it. I use it a lot. Acrylic Liquitex Basics. This is a student grade paint, but I really love it. I probably use this paint more than I use the professional grades of paint. I really enjoy using it, the way that it blends, the consistency. I don't like a really heavy paint, so this is perfect for me. We are going to be using Cadmium Red Deep Hue in our painting, so this is one of the colors that you will need. This is the Michael's brand. It is Artist Loft. Raw Umber is another color that we will be using in our painting. This is optional, but it's really fun to add a metallic blue. This is another Artist Loft brand. We will be using copper. This is the Michael's Artist Loft brand. Yellow ochre. And the yellow ochre, all of these colors can be in whichever brand that you want. I'm just showing you what I have and what I use. We're going to want a silver paint, and we're going to want a white acrylic. And I buy this in the large tubes because I go through the white more than any other color. I use it a lot when I'm mixing my other colors and just as a good basic base paint to have in my canvases. This particular tube is by Matisse, and it is a heavy body paint. I will not be using that in the next tutorial, but it is an option if you wish to use it. If that's what you have, that will work just fine. The heavy body paint looks like really heavy, thick toothpaste when you squeeze it out, so it has a thicker texture to it than our student grade paints. Another option is the soft body, which is in between texture of the student grade and the heavy body. Perfectly fine if this is what you have, use it. I will not be using this in the next painting though. Just wanted you to be aware of it. Some really fun options, you do not need to have them, but it's nice to know, is the high flow acrylics. This is from Golden, and you can buy a water brush that has a paint brush tip on the end of it, and you can fill those with the high flow acrylics and then paint them directly onto your canvas. And they have the consistency of ink or a really thick watercolor. So it's a really fun paint to work with, and they're more transparent. So that is nice to add on top of our layers, our details, our drips, our splatters. They work really good for making our stars and our nebula. So that's a fun option to have. This is Fluid Acrylics by Golden, and this is actually a paint that I work with a lot. It's rather expensive, so make sure that you use your coupons when you buy them. You do not need to have this kind of paint though for the tutorial arrival. This again is just another fun option. The consistency of this paint is similar to what we would find in our acrylic paint pens. So that also is something that it blends really well. It's good for making drips. It's good for doing the splatters, all of those fun details, but not required for this tutorial. Paint pens. Posca is my favorite brand of paint pen. I go through about one of these paint pens per month. Joann's has them in stock. Most Joann's do. Use your coupon, it'll make it more affordable. Do not ever use these over wet paint. You will ruin the tip and have to throw them away. You can also buy them on Amazon. I like to buy them in a pack of 3, and they're about $6 with free shipping that way. So they're really affordable when you buy them that way. Another paint that I like to use is Dilutions. This is a thick paint, and it works really well with the stencils, and it has a nice wide open mouth that is easy to get our tools into. I also like to use with the Dilutions paint and my stencils this little tool by Ranger, and it comes in a starter set with the tool and 3 or 4, I don't remember how many, of these little foam pads. It has Velcro on one side and foam on the other, and it attaches to the tool. You dip it into the paint, smear it a little bit to blend it in, then put it over your stencil, and it works really, really well. I love this tool. And you can also buy the little blending foams separately in a pack of 20 if you need replacements. But as long as you don't let the paint dry in this and wash it out immediately just with our sea sponge, they'll last you for a really long time, and you can use them over and over again. Now talking about our stencils. For this particular painting, I like to have one that has stars and moons in the different phases. If you cannot find one, don't worry about it. Hobby Lobby had a really good star stencil. It had some larger stars. We can tape over the parts we don't need. We just need to have some of these small little stars. You can also hand paint a star, so we don't need to have a stencil if you don't want to. If you can't find one with phases of the moon, one of these circle stencils will work, and we'll just paint in the part of the moon that we need. So no worries over that. Gold Metallic is probably my most favorite paint that I use, and we will be using this in the painting. A large portion of it actually will be Gold Metallic. So that's another color that we'll need to have. Move these out of the way. We're going to talk about this fun stuff now. Spray acrylic. This is great if you buy it in white. You can spray it for a spattering of stars. In the other different colors, it's great for the nebula, for our space scenes. So a really fun option. You don't need to have it. You could actually water down your acrylic paint and put it in a spray bottle if you want. I just like to buy it already in this form. It's just easier for me. This paint I found on Amazon. I bought it in a sampler pack. I think it had 9 different bottles of paint in it. They're little tiny bottles, and it looks like you're not going to be getting a lot of paint, but they really last for a long time. You'll get a lot of paintings out of these tiny little bottles, believe it or not. The colors that I like to use, you do not have to have these, but I do use them in my painting, and that is Halo Blue Gold, Halo Violet Gold, and Pearlescent Turquoise. And they have that really cool color change effect when the light hits it. So they're really fun to have in the space paintings. Glitter, I love glitter paint. I bought this one at Walmart. It is Folk Art brand, Glitterific, and this one is in clear hologram. It came in black, red, blue, green, and purple, I think. But I like the clear hologram one for doing my stars and my moons and some of my other little details like in the nebula. So that is a really fun addition. It is not required. If you don't like glitter, don't worry about it. I love glitter, so I always make sure that I have plenty of glitter paint on hand. Professional Artist Spray Paint. This is not going to be used in the current painting, but it is really fun. It's an option. If you want to use it, you certainly can. It comes in all different colors, and you can just add different little layers of fine mist, and it'll all blend out to a fabulous nebula. So something to keep in mind, really fun to have. They sell this at most art stores, or you can order it from your online art supplies. Acrylic ink. This is the texture of ink, and it's acrylic paint. It is fun to use for your details, your drips, your splatters. It's one of those extras. We don't need to have it, and I actually will not be using it in this painting, but it's an option that you can be aware of, and you might want to use it in a future project. Craft paint. If your budget does not allow you to buy the artist grade paints, then craft paint certainly would be an option. I do recommend that you do not use apple barrel paint. I buy this at Walmart for 50 cents a bottle. It is really thin. It's great for art journaling. It's not so great for putting on our canvas. You're going to have to use several layers of it. It looks streaky. Sometimes it flakes off. So doesn't mix really well. It's not really a great option. I really prefer that you don't use this because you're not going to be happy, and you're going to blame yourself when it's not you, it's the paint. It really is. Ceramic coat. If you have to go with a craft paint for your option to paint this project, this would be the brand of paint. It's through Delta that I would recommend, and it is because it has a more thick one layer paint. So you can do one layer and it's going to have a nice coat to it. I really recommend at least you get the mini set of the artist quality or the student quality paints rather than get the craft paint. You're just going to be happier in the end. Now to talk about gesso. This is super heavy gesso. I will not be using that. There are times when you would want an application of a super heavy gesso. It can add some texture to your project as well, as does modeling paste. I keep a little bit of it on hand. I don't use it very often. Clear gesso, we will not be using it in this project, but it is something that is also nice to have on hand. If I'm putting down a layer of pencils or charcoal and I want to make sure that it doesn't turn into a muddy mess, I will put on a layer of workable fixative and let this dry, and then I can go over the top with either my clear gesso to make sure that I have a good base to work on, or I can just go ahead and paint. Or if I have a layer of paint down and I feel like I want to save it, then I'll put on a layer of clear gesso, and then I can continue after the clear gesso is dry to add on another layer of whatever I'm working on. White gesso is the gesso that I use the most. You can make it colored by adding in just a little bit of whatever color paint that you wish, or you can buy colored gesso. Matisse is one brand that carries the colored gesso. I believe Liquitex also does, but I'm not for sure on that one. White gesso is my favorite. I buy this in as big of a bottle as I can afford, and I always make sure to have extra on hand. I use this more than anything. Black gesso is what we are going to be using for this project. You can get it in some little tubes, or you can get it in the big bottle, and you're going to want to have 1 to 2 layers on your canvas of the black gesso. When you're finished, I highly recommend that you put a varnish over your painting. This one is Liquitex Gloss Medium and Varnish, and I really like this one a lot. You can also use it mixing with your paints to get a thinner consistency and almost oil-like look with your acrylics if you use the gloss medium. And that'll be a technique that we're going to use in other tutorials. Not this one, but in future tutorials coming up. So just a fun thing to be aware of. And if you varnish your paintings, they clean easier. You can get the dust off of them easier. Or if you have a toddler and ketchup gets splattered on the painting, it's not ruined because you have varnish, and you can take a wet cloth and very carefully clean it off, and your painting is okay. You haven't ruined your painting. So that's just a really good extra step. If you're going through all of the work of painting this beautiful painting, you want to protect it by putting a varnish. You can also buy in Krylon a spray varnish if you don't want to do a brush on varnish. So that's another option for you. Paint brushes. I always keep lots and lots of paint brushes. Can never have too many paint brushes. For this particular painting, we're going to need a square paintbrush, a larger paintbrush to lay down our gesso with. And then we're going to need maybe a small angle brush, and we're going to need some smaller detail brushes or spotter brushes, liner brushes, to do the details with the stars and our Eye of God and our earth to paint in the details. So we won't need a lot of paintbrushes for this one. We're mostly going to use our sea sponge, but you will need some of the finer tipped paintbrushes. Something else that you will need often as an artist is transfer paper. This one comes in a roll. I bought this off of Amazon, around $9, maybe free shipping. It comes in black, red, white, yellow, and blue, I believe. This one is in white. You can also buy at your art stores and your craft stores packages of graphite paper or wax-free transfer paper in little packages like this that has individual sheets in it. This one was $5.99. Of course, use a 40 or 50% off coupon. Makes it more affordable. This one happened to have, let's see how many sheets, 12 sheets. So it was about $3 for 12 sheets after my coupon, which, you know, and they last you. You can use them over and over many, many times on your paintings for transferring designs. So it's a very affordable tool to have, and it makes a lot of your work much easier, because I often will make a sketch and then I will transfer my sketch onto the canvas by using my transfer paper. Canvases. I like to buy the multi-packs at Michael's or Hobby Lobby or Joann's on their sales. You can get about 5 canvases for $10 on the really good sales. Some of the packages of the smaller canvases have more canvases in them. I think you can get up to like 10 canvases in the multi-pack for $10 to $12, so that's really good. Normal price on the multi-pack is usually 20 bucks, but use your 40-50% off coupon and that brings it down to the $10 to $12 mark. So this is how I buy my canvases. For the canvas that we'll be using, I will be putting the black gesso on it, and I will be using a 16 by 20 inch. This is a 12 by 12 canvas. We're going to want to have some painter's tape, and this is what I use for adhering my stencil to my canvas so that it doesn't move and I can get the paint on it nice and easy without any problem. And the painter's tape will not pull up any paint that I already have on the canvas. You just have to make sure that the paint is nice and dry before you apply the tape. You're also going to want to have something to put your paint on. These little plastic paint palettes, you can get them for $1, $1.99 at the most. And this is what it looks like if you do not put a layer of saran wrap on. I recommend getting the press and seal saran wrap, putting the saran wrap on it before you add your paint to the palette. That way when you're through painting for the session, you just pull the saran wrap off and throw it away and your palette is nice and neat. Otherwise, it looks like this. You gotta scrub it, you get paint in your sink, little flakes everywhere. It's much easier to keep the saran wrap on it and have an easy clean rather than not. You're going to want to protect your work surface. I like to use paper bags. These are from Trader Joe's. I get my groceries in them. I cut them open, tape them down to my table, or I buy the brown paper in a roll from the dollar store and I will tape that to my table. And once it has bits of gesso and acrylic paint all over it, it's wonderful for adding to a journal. And I will be teaching how to make your own hand-bound journals in the future. So don't throw away your brown paper after it's covered in paint, because we'll have a really good use for it. I think I have covered everything that I needed to cover. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me or email me or leave a comment down below and I will get back to you. I am so excited to see what you all are going to do with this tutorial arrival and how you're going to make it your own. So super excited to do this class with you guys. This painting was really very special to me and I am so happy to share it. I am sending out love and light to everybody. Happy painting, and I will see you soon in the next video. Bye.